introduce yourself, tell us your name, where you are, your whole life story from day one now. What brings us to this moment.
Right. Gosh, from day one, that's so much information.
You can give us the abridged version, though.
Right. Andrea Murdoch, Andina chef, originally from Venezuela. My indigeneity lies in the San Cristobal region of the country. And I own and operate FourDirections Cuisine in Denver, Colorado.
So tell me about the cuisine, because I was intrigued when I found out about you, when it was introduced to you, and I want to know more, and I want everyone to know more.
Awesome. So FourDirections Cuisine is an indigenous foods catering company. We do like fine dining all the way to retail snack packs and wholesale items. And like even simple things like a hummus isn't a typical hummus like what most people know it as. I actually use tepary beans that are specifically from Ramona Farms, and that is a legume that has sustained the Owodum people since their beginning. And it's little things like that that really helps start as well as prolong the conversation about indigenous foods, because a lot of people understand indigenous cuisine, if they even view it as a cuisine, honestly, as fry bread with toppings. A lot of people do not realize how expansive indigenous foods and systems and the cuisine actually is. I have friends in the Pacific Northwest and Alaska, on the West Coast in general, who love their salmon. And it's just not the same diet as, let's say, the Iroquois, who are originally from, what is now Pennsylvania. They're having a lot more rabbit and deer meat and duck and things like that. So it's very expansive. It's very diverse. It really is, root to table, field to table, water to table, however you want to call it, type of cuisine.
That sounds so awesome. I just want to give a quick little background. I've been obsessing for the past 3 years on why there isn't more of just an access to indigenous cuisine and Native American, whatever that is not French or Italian or Mexican, and the things that we're all used to, like every kind of personage has like a cuisine, right? And 3 years ago, I was at the, what was it? I was in Long Island. There was the, oh yeah, I'm forgetting the name. There was like a festival, a Native American festival. Okay. I see, this is what happens when you turn old. Anyway, it was the first time I'd ever seen like food trucks and a festival with different kinds of foods. And I just kind of felt like this is a missed opportunity for the people who really originated this country and who are this backbone of America. And I just, anytime I would meet anybody that was Native American, I'd be like, you need to do cuisine. Anyway, we have a mutual friend, hence this introduction, and hence what I want everyone to start thinking about and knowing about and direct messaging me so I can like share some of the information that Andrea is doing such a vital, important work. And I feel like she's on the, even though she's probably been doing it for years, but she is on the cusp of what could be a great new trend in food. Am I wrong?
We don't necessarily want it to be a trend.
No, okay, wrong word, but an acknowledgement of.
Yes. Yes, exactly. The acknowledgement to our traditional foods, our traditional food ways, our food systems. People don't realize that over 70% of the world's food originated in the Americas, or as we call it, Turtle Island. That blows people's minds.
Wait,
or they say that can't be right. It's like, yeah,
So why Turtle Island?
Turtle Island. It has to do with a lot of the indigenous creation stories. So, for example, when I was learning from the ladies at Oneida Nation in Wisconsin, their creation story is about sky people who fell down to Earth as we recognize it, and Earth was actually the turtle shell, and it was surrounded by water. And over time, that turtle shell has been broken up into North America, South America, Central America, Mesoamerica. As we understand it geographically today, but their creation story, um, which they can do a much more thorough and proper job of telling the story. But the gist of it is that Sky Woman came down to the earthly world, which was actually the shell of a turtle.
Wow, interesting. So what is your like favorite dishes to make? Tell us a little about like some of the foods that you enjoy making, or I understand you teach cooking classes too. So what does that entail? What are those classes?
If I'm doing cooking classes for the general public, they are a bit different than what I might present at Navajo Technical University in Crown Point, New Mexico. I've been down there as a guest chef and lecturer 3 or 4 times now, and the kids are always fantastic, very receptive to the information because a majority of them are from desert dwelling tribes or predominantly Dene, and to be an Andina and sharing some of my more specific cultural knowledge with them, they really enjoy it, and they start to ask different questions and start trying to incorporate it into their own cuisine, or even just cooking at home, wanting to mess around with it and experiment and see what the different flavors are like, or what can they combine to make something unique, that they've created with our traditional foods. When I do community events, a lot of times it is surrounding either Indigenous youth, and we're trying to teach them how to cook healthy, traditional foods as opposed to relying on fast food, or like 7-Eleven, like convenience store
Oh,
type of
right.
foods. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of our indigenous people are in food deserts. Oh shoot, what is it? Was it? I think Navajo Nation. Uh, is something the size of Rhode Island, and yet there are 13 grocery stores for that size of community.
Wow.
That's when you start relying on gas station food. It's whatever you're driving past at the time, and if you're as most of our indigenous people are, especially if you're living on reservations, um, it's not particularly conducive to growing your own food. It's a little more difficult, and that was part of the purpose of the forced removal. Like, that was, people don't understand this or can wrap their heads around it, or they just want to deny it altogether. It's like taking away our food systems and our foodways. That was an act of genocide. That was meant to disrupt our livelihood so much that we just died off.
Ouch.
Yeah, yeah. The
There's so many things.
slaughters, that was meant to kill off a major food system for us, a food resource for us. They almost became extinct.
How did it's infuriating.
Yes.
It's infuriating. I mean, the whole thing about the food, like the 12 grocery stores to so much land.
Hmm.
I mean, that can't be like common knowledge. I mean, that has to be you guys need better PR. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? The horrors, I mean, this all has to become much more, like, this has to be a decade about opening up to the truths about what happened and how it's being handled. I mean, I am shocked at hearing that. And I'm kind of like on it in a certain amount of ways, but
Yeah.
that's way too upsetting.
Yeah. God, the US government was very, very intelligent with its attempt to exterminate us.
And it's
To
evilness.
be honest, and I'm South American Indigenous. Our story is very, very different. I mean, and I find it appalling that my North American relatives have to carry a tribal card as a form of paperwork or pedigree. No one else has to do that. You know what I mean? Uh, it, that
That's
that's
factual.
only issue like that's only issued to animals, and yet as indigenous people we're uh not even federally not all of our tribes are federally recognized, and then those who are, you have to in a lot of tribe, and the rules differ from tribe to tribe because of the monetary disbursements, but in the tribes where you have to be a certain percentage of indigenous blood, like indigenous genealogy, and that's when we get into blood quantum and all these other things. So like when you hear people say, card carrying Indian, it means that they have a quote unquote pedigree to show that they are Native American.
In order to do what though? Like
To be able to, for example,
birth and
forage
stuff?
or hunt without having to pay. Uh-huh.
Ay, ay, ay.
So technically, if I'm not a card-carrying Indian because I'm South American native, if I'm caught on, not national park land foraging, technically I could be fined because I don't have paperwork.
Yikes. That's such a not good thing to know.
Hmm. The other thing that shocks people is that, and you might know this because of your background. Uh, the Nazis studied what the U.S. government did to indigenous people and took notes, and then proceeded to persecute Jewish people.
Oh my God.
They took notes. So like all of that, uproar and just all of those feelings, when you think of the Holocaust, they took notes
Wow.
on Native American genocide and then applied it in a different way.
Look, America was founded by a gross bunch of people, and it is at the center of who we still are.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
no changing that. And as much as we make tiny little strides here and there, and kind of try to chip away, but it's almost like you can never, flatten a mountain. You know what I mean? It's like that shit's there because it's at the essence of America.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. And I guess all we can kind of do is, I guess, just try chipping away. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. I mean, these people, the thing about progressives is that they really feel like they're gonna, they're so like Pollyanna about their like dreams and hopes of changing the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just upsetting because, it's like, that old adage, you can't fight City Hall, and it's like how do you so that's why to me at least what has to happen now is, like I said, is that the information has to be more readily available, and if it's not going to be taught in schools, then it should be like electives, or it should be like curriculums, and it should be something that people would want to study, because there might be an actual industry that could be part of your studying this, and whether it's legally related or just supporting in food systems. I mean, there's an industry. There's a way to make this something besides just, oh, how horrible it was. The same, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I don't know. I just don't. I guess I'm just thinking out loud. But I just knowing that the hardships should not. You know, there's got to be a coming of age. We and people of color, it's on us to understand that we could be the glue that keeps it all together to fight that off. You know,
Hmm.
because I don't know. I'm almost at wit's end, but I'm definitely committed to holding on till November 22, you know, and
Hmm.
giving it my all and making sure that I am not going to be part of a fascistic regime. There's just no way that's happening.
Yeah, and as important as it is for those of us in the Indigenous community, the Black community, other communities who are completely marginalized, we also need a lot of allyship. I mean, Indigenous people we make up less than 5% of the nation. So even if every single one of us, banded together, that still wouldn't be enough. We need that allyship.
No. I agree. I'm right there on the allyship department. Are you
Yeah.
kidding? But that is what my whole goal is from now to November. It's
Hmm.
to get groups of people together, distributing information, not only political information, but emotional information, the groups that we need to keep together, putting people together. It's like, this is why I feel like I always like to say I survived the plagues. You know what I mean? To be at least to be like a conduit, because again, we are going to have to. I mean, especially with the voting, like the Native American community is treated like such an afterthought. It's just unacceptable.
Absolutely. There are people who don't think that Native Americans exist on this earth anymore, you know? Or if people recognize that we are still living and breathing, that we're still here, we're still existing, a lot of folks will awkwardly say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, of course I know Native American people are still here." I mean, I don't know any Native people, but yeah, I know they're still here. And it's like you you realize that all of the Latinos that whether they will admit it or not, they're of mixed heritage. That there's indigeneity in there because they were indigenous before they were colonized.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of stereotypes, a lot of misinformation, just bold lies that have to be overcome and retaught.
Right. Have a
Awesome.
great night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye, honey.
Bye.